Another nightmare. John's stress about getting a date for the reunion was making him think of her. Harmony. He hadn't seen her in years. Would she be at the reunion? John shook off the thought. He wasn't a child. He was a fully grown penis. John, why is the bathroom barricaded?
For skin's sake, is that a swan? John had no idea how it had gotten into his home or why it hated him so much. It would probably be best to leave it alone. John's butt started to buzz. Had he left a vibrator up there? Whatever it was, he should get it out. John's old phone. They really were indestructible. It was Sam calling.
He wanted to check in on John. The travel looked fun, but it was so sudden. Was John okay? Sam was such a softie, always worrying about feelings. John had only one feeling, and it was the feeling of being awesome. He could drop Sam a text, but John was on a mission. The reunion was getting closer, and he had to get a date. Fortunately, John knew exactly where to find love. John held his breath. He was about to meet his match. He had to reassure himself he could do this. He had a good job. He had nice stuff. He had travelled. He was ready to find love. On Wiener, where all his sexy travel photos would give him the pick of the pack. Too skinny. Too short. Hot. Too much foreskin. Sexy. Not enough foreskin. Very nice. Glasses. Nice shaft. Yep, the pick of the pack. Yes! John had the pick of the pack. John valued honesty in a date, but he had been expecting a different kind of dirty, a sexy and much more hygienic kind. John was scared of getting circumcised so late in life.
Oh, better put that on ice. It'll be okay, John. Chicks fix cars. I hope.
After the reattachment surgery, the doctors had told John to rest. So he did, for 6 hours. Ugh, salty. Ugh. The date was off to a great start. Don't offer her popcorn, John.
John was in stitches. Karen had invited John straight over. She was not fooling around. Very exciting. And now she wanted him round the back. Karen let John know that the cake was only for the kids, so was the candy, and the piñata, and that she'd be back in 1 hour.
John laughed at Melody's hilarious bullfrog story. She was adorable. Everything was going perfectly. John never saw Melody again.
So far, Weena had been a parade of weirdos and rejections. If this date didn't work out, John vowed to give it up. But maybe this time, maybe today would be his day.
Sharona sighed and said, "He'll do."
John felt a little underdressed and a lot overwhelmed. He was surrounded by strangers, and Sharona was glaring at the muscular groom. At least John hadn't missed out on the cake. John realized that Sharona had only brought him to create some penis envy. What a terrible plan, for so many reasons. John got excited. They were going to cut the cake. "He's mine!" Sharona screamed as she launched herself at the newlyweds.
Suddenly, penises were up and yelling, "No, he's mine!" It was a no-holds-barred cockfight. As John dodged flying glasses and cake, he felt a stab of envy. The groom had dozens of penises after him, and John had none. It was just wrong.
John left the screams and explosions behind him. It was a disastrous end to his online dating. He had tried everything, and it just wasn't good enough. He wasn't good enough. Maybe the bullies from school were right. Swans were so simple. If you gave them bread, they liked you. But you can't take a swan to a reunion. John wanted what that groom had. Love. Real love. The kind that makes penises fight to the death. Days later, the question was still bugging John. Why were so many penises in love with the groom? But no one loved John.
It wasn't fair. John deserved attention. He had money and Buttstagram pics of his adventures. He even still had quite a lot of stuff. What did that penis have that John didn't? Then it hit John. That penis was so strong and hard. That's what everyone wanted. That's what John wasn't. That's what John had to be to find love. It was time to hit the gym.
John arrived at his local gym. A part of him couldn't believe he was here. He just wasn't a gym penis. But John had tried everything else. If he wanted to get the perfect date, he'd need to sign up. Sam? What was he doing here? Of course, Sam was married. John's theory was right. If you get muscles, you get love. Out of nowhere, Sam asked John how he was doing. Really doing. For a moment, John wanted to be honest, but he didn't come to gym to be a softie. John was here to get hard. It was John's first time in a gym since school. He tried not to read too much into that. Sam went on ahead with a chipper promise to meet up with John inside. John had two options. He could try month by month, or if he signed the 10-year Big Muscles Big Savings contract, he'd get a free easy squeezy water bottle. John only needed muscles for the reunion. After that, he wouldn't care. The gym's clean peen pool policy meant that John would have to do something he had never done before. Get naked in front of strangers. Maybe he could set a record for speediest cleanse. Naked, John could feel the blanket of steam intimately against his private parts. John pretended he was alone and not surrounded by wrinkly, wet cocks. What was John nervous about? That he would be laughed at? There was nothing funny about a naked penis. Very fetching, John. It even matches your tan lines. Time to conquer the pool. Sam enthusiastically greeted John and offered to show him around, obviously not realizing that John was a natural athlete. The diving board. At school, all the peenlets had to jump off it, but John had been too scared. Well done, John. The judges give you 3 for form, but 9 for enthusiasm. This wasn't hard. John couldn't believe peens actually got gold medals just for splashing around. Maybe he could become an Olympian. He was slowing down a bit, flailing a bit, but John pushed on, knowing that looking good in a Speedo was the only thing that could save him from an empty existence. John wanted to take a break, forever. The pool was not his friend. It was not the blissful wet dream of his fantasies. It was a hellish prison of murderous fluid determined to drown him. No wonder life crawled out of the sea, desperate to escape the water. Done. John had not drowned, but more importantly, he had not quit. Time to hit the weight room. John tried to strike up a conversation with the sleeping sunbather. Fresh from conquering the pool, John felt ready for anything the gym could throw at him, even heavy metal weights. Clearly, John knew how to handle equipment. Sam cheered John on, as if he needed it. Adrenaline coursed through John's veins, his butthole clenched like a fist. John was forging himself into the peen he saw on movie screens, bulging and sweat-slicked, hard and shiny. John smashed the mirror. He didn't want to look at his old body. He wanted to be hard. Boom! John was cocked and loaded. Didn't Sam ever get out of breath? The stream of encouragement was exhausting. Slow and steady. That's right, John. Like a lover. Or pouring gravy. That had gotten John's heart rate up and his life expectancy down. John was sweating like a senator on a sex tape, but he wasn't done. John took a deep breath, clenched, and pulled. Sam made this look so easy. John squashed the thought. He'd just have to push harder. John tried to make eye contact with Sam, get in his head a bit. Sam didn't seem to notice John, but John could tell Sam was impressed. Even though he still hadn't looked at John, not that it mattered to John, because John was in the zone, deep in the zone. With the sound of a deflating truck tire, John's sphincter gave out. Sam congratulated John for trying and told him it was okay to take things slow, as if John was going to quit. Well, he wasn't. John had a mission, and the reunion was getting closer.
As soon as John woke up, the mirror called to him. His abs looked like a pack of vacuum-sealed hot dogs. Tasty. Jim had remade John into a sculpted Adongus. He was finally everything a peen should be: successful, travelled, and photogenic. It was time for his morning pre-gym workout.
The swan was starting to like John. It hadn't tried to peck his eye out in hours.
The reunion invitation caught John's eye. He read it again and again. Stunned. He'd gotten the date wrong. Very wrong. The reunion was tonight. Tonight! He'd have to go alone. They'd all be there, and they'd look at John and they'd know he was still a loser. No, there was still time. John needed a date fast. He'd have to go out. He'd have to make an impact. John had to dress his best, only better. Is this sending the right message? Oh my, John. Welcome to the gun show. This isn't the time for comfort, John. That's a choice, I suppose. There had to be someone single and desperately alone in the city. Someone besides John. He just had to find them. John went straight to the nearest bar. Sure, it was still early, but he couldn't waste any time. There must be some day drinkers he could pick up. It was a classy place. Even the vomit was high quality. The bouncer looked like a hagfish that had taken up lacrosse. Much better. John stepped into the bar and saw her. The answer to the question, what was John's purpose? Her. Loving her. Being with her. Taking her to the reunion. Their eyes met, and John knew she felt the same. Gladys did not feel the same, but John wasn't going to give up on their life together. A couple of drinks would loosen her up to their destiny. Wow, Gladys was not an amateur when it came to drinking. John had to keep up.
John's bladder was very full. It sloshed audibly as he moved. It was working. Gladys was definitely warming up to John. Holy balls! John had never felt such relief. If only John could wash off the embarrassment like he washed off the urine. John looked around. Gladys was gone. John cursed his petite bladder. The bored bartender shrugged and told John Gladys had left because some creep was trying to get her drunk. The bar was empty. The creep must have left too. A couple of cold beers would cool down John's frustration. It was clear the cockpit was on autopilot. Time for John to hit the next bar. John's anxiety had sunk under the surface of the beer he'd drunk, while his confidence was floating high. This was the place he'd find love.